Mafia boss discovers betrayal and seeks revenge. Our next true story is one of revenge. The name of our protagonist has been concealed for obvious reasons, but he's from the U.S. state of New York, and in 2004, he was at the height of his career as a mobster. At the time, he worked under a boss named Anthony Accardo. Tony had risen through the ranks of the Bonanno crime family, one of the 5 major mafia organizations in the U.S. over the years. He'd made himself pretty much indispensable to the family. The other members relied on him to make big decisions and pull off important jobs. But during a meeting in the early summer of 2004, Tony betrayed our protagonist. He proposed a hit on the man who'd earned the nickname Teflon Don. For some reason, Tony wanted him dead. The plot involved another mobster named Salvatore Madonna. We don't know why Tony chose him for the job. Maybe he owed Tony a favor, or maybe Tony thought that he could sway the guy by offering him enough money. Either way, it was a bad choice because this Salvatore was not the type of man you'd want to hire to do a professional job. He was known throughout the mafia world as a loose cannon. If you hired him to do something, there was a good chance that he would end up getting killed in the process. But Tony didn't care. He just wanted the Teflon Don dead. So he gave Madonna a large sum of cash and a set of keys. It was a straightforward assignment. All he had to do was go to the Teflon Don's house and steal these keys. When Madonna handed over the keys, Tony would then use them to enter the Teflon Don's safe deposit box at a bank. There he would steal a flash drive containing sensitive information about the Bonanno crime family. That was the plan anyway. But it never went past the planning stage. On the day that the hit was supposed to take place, Madonna got cold feet. He decided that instead of stealing the keys, he would keep them and give Tony nothing. Problem was, the mafia doesn't really tolerate treachery. Men like Madonna are expected to stick to the plan no matter what. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to convince the other men working with him of this. They all knew how dangerous the Teflon Don was. So when they heard that Madonna had stolen the keys, they panicked. They were afraid that the hit would fail and they would get blamed for it. The only thing that stopped them from killing Madonna was Tony. He managed to calm them down and convince them that he would handle everything. Then he called the Teflon Don and invited him out for a meeting. But the Teflon Don refused. This confused Tony. Usually his associates would jump at the chance to meet with him. So why was he turning down an invitation? Didn't take long for him to find out the answer. As it turned out, the Teflon Don had received an anonymous tip about the hit against him. He had no idea who had warned him, but he wasn't about to take any chances. The moment that he received the tip, he contacted the FBI. He then agreed to let the Bureau bug his house so they could catch the people trying to break in. And so a few hours later, when Tony showed up at his doorstep and asked him to come along for a ride, he accepted without hesitation. Tony was shocked when the Teflon Don agreed so quickly. But little did he know that he was about to walk right into a trap. As soon as they arrived at the bug car, FBI agents surrounded the vehicle and arrested Tony. They also searched his house and found enough evidence to charge him with several crimes, including racketeering and extortion. After spending 5 years in prison, he was released and went into hiding. But the FBI were hot on his trail and eventually caught him again. This time, they sentenced him to 15 years in prison. Meanwhile, the Teflon Don returned to his life as a mobster. One day, he was eating lunch at a restaurant when he saw a TV report about Tony's arrest. The first thing he did was call Madonna and invite him over to his house. When the hitman arrived, he explained to him what had happened, and then he offered him a deal. He said that if Madonna testified against him in court, he would ask the judge for leniency. Madonna hesitated for a moment, but then he agreed. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison after all, so he accepted the deal. In exchange for his testimony, the Teflon Don asked the judge for a reduced sentence, but the judge refused. He sentenced Madonna to the same amount of time that he'd given Tony, 15 years. The Teflon Don was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He'd made the best deal that he could. But then, he had an idea. He could always get even with Madonna. And he started making plans to do just that. A few weeks after the sentencing, he visited the prison where Madonna was being held and told him that he was going to kill him when he gets out. Of course, Madonna panicked. How could he trust a man who had tried to have him killed in the first place? But the Teflon Don didn't care. He knew that Madonna was a snitch now, and that meant that he couldn't stay alive much longer. Teflon Don had several men waiting outside the prison gates the moment Madonna walked out. They had guns in their hands, and they weren't afraid to use them. As soon as he saw them, Madonna started to run. But he didn't get far. One of the men shot him in the back and he collapsed to the ground. The Teflon Don was satisfied. He'd gotten his revenge on the man who had betrayed him. But soon, he would face a new enemy. The man who pulled the trigger on Madonna was one of the Teflon Don's close friends. His name was Michael Peruta. A few months later, he tried to have the Teflon Don killed. For some reason, the Teflon Don's bodyguards managed to stop the attack, but Peruta managed to escape. For the next 2 years, he remained on the run, changing his appearance and staying in cheap motels. But in 2010, he was finally caught and sent to prison. Meanwhile, the Teflon Don was beginning to worry about his own safety. He had survived multiple assassination attempts, but he knew that it wouldn't last forever. He needed to protect himself, and the only way he could think to do that was to leave the Mafia and start a new life. In 2011, he announced that he was retiring from the Mafia. Soon after, moved to an undisclosed location and changed his name. He also agreed to testify against his former associates, which earned him some leniency from the government. In 2018, he was finally released from prison. Since then, he's lived a quiet life away from the violence and intrigue of the Mafia. Today, he's in his 70s and spends most of his time playing golf and fishing. What about the others? The fate of the others involved in the plot against the Teflon Don is unknown. We don't know what happened to them after the police arrested Tony, or if they ever tried to get back at the Teflon Don for what he did to Madonna. It's possible that they were all killed, but we'll never know for sure. The Teflon Don earned his nickname because he managed to avoid prosecution for many years. Even though he was involved in some of the most heinous crimes imaginable, he always seemed to slip through the cops' fingers. Eventually, of course, he was caught, but not before he'd successfully evaded the authorities for years. Why do people join the Mafia? Most people join the Mafia because they see it as a way out of poverty. When you're born into a poor family, your options in life are limited. You can work a low-paying job for little money, or you can join the Mafia and make a lot of money very quickly. Of course, there are risks involved in choosing the second option, but most young mobsters are willing to take those risks. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. Remember to like and subscribe for more great videos.